So phishing and multi-factor authentication. So, when you're trying to get your initial foothold, then phishing attacks are very popular. And that's the interesting thing about this course. This is kind of really more of a red team or attack focused course, which is kind of good. A lot of times you find courses and it's all based on more generalized pen testing. So the content Slavi came up with is really good. So initial access through phishing. So that's one of the ways that you get. Going through and exploiting MFA is a way to get access. Also, legacy protocols can be used, and then you can buy MFA bypass through phishing. So in some engagements, we may have received credentials from the customer to do a assume breach scenario. Does that sound familiar? So yeah, in some cases they'll give you that, but otherwise you're going to have to do some sort of phishing attack to gain access. So the common way of obtaining credentials is through email phishing. As an attacker, we will set up our phishing infrastructure and configure it to ensure that only our targeted victims can reach it. In this case, Azure Office 365, as many applications perform single sign-on and utilize Azure as an identity provider. Users become more familiar with the Microsoft login prompt and and this is what we can use to our advantage. So sometimes they see that and they just assume that it's okay to enter information. We can really configure our infrastructure to resemble that of a legitimate Microsoft login prompt and simply abuse it should the victim enter their credentials. By the way, just to outline that while username and password are not the only way of obtaining access in Azure, in this section we'll focus on that. So here's a tool that you can use for initial access through phishing. It performs like it's a man-in-the-middle framework for phishing. And let's go to there's actually the link I will share with you. Seen this covered in some other learning content as well. So here's the GitHub page to the site. You can kind of see EvilGenix 2 is a man-in-the-middle attack framework used for phishing and login credentials along with session cookies, which in turn allows to bypass two-factor authentication protection. So this is the successor to EvilGenix, released in 2017, which is a custom version of Nginx HTTP server. Go ahead and zoom in here. So I don't know if you can see that screen very clearly. So if you can't see the screenshot, then let's see, there it goes. So we can kind of see a screenshot of this in action, and we'll get into more of the actual hands-on, or some of the live demos as the week goes on. So here at first, we're just mainly getting through the content. So Michael Dunn says, yeah, it's probably a good case. And he said Ghostfish is good too. I'll have to check that out. And so yeah, it shows it running. So a lot of these phishing frameworks make things easier because I've worked for consulting companies that not using things like GoFish or some of these other type of phishing frameworks or social engineering toolkit. We just spun up like a Microsoft IIS server and built, we cloned like different websites and put in, set up where people enter their credentials. But with all these frameworks and these different tools now, they make it a lot easier. And it's a preferred method over going through and installing and trying to set up everything manually. So you can kind of you can see a little demo there. And as Michael said, he thinks it's in Kali Linux. It probably is, because just about everything tools in there. So, so the original version was released in 2017. So it's just like custom version of Nginx HTTP server, which you see kind of widely in use to provide man-in-the-middle functionality to act as a proxy server between browser and a phished website. Present version is fully written in Go, which is good. Go is a good language. It's pretty powerful, and a lot of the tools were being written in Python for the longest time, but a lot of people are starting to write stuff in Go as well. And that's Go or Golang that you may hear reference to. And there's a lot of different red teaming and pen testing tools that are written in Go now. It's a disclaimer. I am very much aware evil Nginx can be used for nefarious purposes. So this is like any tool. They're telling you they're not wanting you to use it for evil. It's funny it's evil in the name, but don't use it for evil. So if you want to learn more about these techniques, so they've got some different write-ups on here that you can go through on how to use the tool. So you can download the pre-compiled packages, that sort of thing. But sometimes the ease of using Kali Linux or Parrot OS, some of these things are installed or make it easier to install. Yeah, I like Go. It's it's pretty fast. I know some guys that work for Critical Start. They created the Damios C2, and it's built on Go. I think they started out writing in a Python or something like that, but as they got going, they decided to use Go instead. They've been pretty happy with it. They're actually some of the people that really got me interested in Golang. I started playing around learning it last year. I need to get back and spend the time and effort to get into it. There's some different write-ups on the tool. So something like this, you'd send your phishing email out and collect credentials that way. Yeah, I actually had that book too. I think it's Black Hat Go by No Starch Press. But really, you almost need to. I didn't really notice the size of the binaries, but the thing I like is that it's portable executables, so you can compile it on whatever operating system to run on other operating systems.